Okay, so let's watch the fragments, and I probably stop from time to time to give you explanations on who is who.
예, 그럼 이제 그 기록 영화를 보시겠는데요. 중간중간에 설명을 해서 멈추도록 하겠습니다.
Okay, so the guy in the middle is Aaron Farouki.
가운데 있는 한 사람이었습니다.
Mais mademoiselle, je ne suis pas contre mon opinion précisément. Je trouve que ce n'est pas du tout pour
Si vous voulez l'afficher, tout ce que vous voulez, mais si vous voulez l'afficher, faites tout ce que vous voulez dans la salle, n'est-ce pas, pour mettre les films, n'est-ce pas, qu'on accède.
Okay, this is Netherlands director of the casino, telling the students that there is no way that they could show this huge manifesto they are writing. There is no way they could show it in the context of the casino.
이게 그 카지노의 그 주인이고요. 지금 학생들에게 그 선언문을 카지노에 걸거나 볼 수 없다라고 설명하고 있습니다.
les autorités qui nous appellent
contre les gens qui vous soient contre Arfaquet, n'est-ce pas, contre les gens qui vous soutiennent et qui vous aident. Et contre la direction du casino. Et contre tous les gens qui font que vous êtes ici pendant 8 jours.
On ne peut pas trouver une solution avec le gouvernement autoritaire que vous le faites.
Enfin, retenez ce que je vous dis, n'est-ce pas, parce que c'est décidé et irrévocable.
Retenez-vous la discussion possible.
And the other voices you are hearing are the voices of the German students advocating the necessity of what they're doing.
예, 그리고 이제 그 카지노 주인 말고 다른 사람 목소리는 이 이제 선언문을 게재할 필요성을 이제 주장하고 있는 독일 학생들입니다.
Interestingly, there was another voice, which was the one of Jacques Ledoux, mentioning his position was always a bit very interesting actually, because he was on the side of the students politically, but as an organizer couldn't really go their way and had to understand what the casino manager wanted to have respected.
예, 그래서 여기 또 들리는 목소리 중 하나가 이제 그 기획자인 샤크의 목소리인데요. 이제 이 사람은 이제 정치적으로는 학생들을 이해하지만은 그러니까 기획자로서는 그 완전히 그 사람들을 볼 수 없는 그런.
And so anyway, they bring the poster. So Aaron Farouki on the left, and this very interesting text. The FLN is the only jury, FLN being the liberation movement for Nigeria from the French colony. And the guy that went with the beard is Holger Mainz, future member of Haute Administration, who died in prison a few years later.
Fascist? Oh, you are?
But there were many other visitors to the festival, and among them was someone called Jean-Jacques Lebel. It is a piece that Yoko Ono performed in the main hall of the casino, the black bag piece. She remains under a black blanket for, it's not clear, a few hours, 1 day, 2 days. It was a tentative interview by the German TV people for...
Would you like more people to write down in their sets just around here?
No, I don't want anything. Just forget about me. Forget about me.
And this is a very interesting moment. The general protest of that was in the air, actually, as you would have understood, led on the final evening of the festival to a discussion that the organizers had to accept between them and the audience. And this is that moment that you're going to see now. A discussion between the organizers and the audience in general, who questions a series of things, and among those things were the selection itself, actually, the fact that the film had been selected, and which and who's right, actually.
예, 전반적인 어떤 시위의 분위기가 있었고, 그래서 결국은 이 페스티벌 마지막 날에 관객과 그다음에 심사위원 모두가 참여하는 이 토론의 자리가 마련됐고요. 여기서 작품 선정이나 이런 거에 관한 굉장히 광범위한 그 주제들이 이 기획자 측과 총중이 한꺼번에 참여하는 이런 종류의 토론으로 마련됐다.
By the way, in these images, now and then you can see behind the people talking left and not now, but before and after you will see left and right fragments of the huge magnetite fresco that I mentioned before.
예, 그리고 이 뒤에 잘 보시면은 그 르네버가 흩어져 있다가 일부가 보입니다.
So, except the guy who is talking, the other people are members of the selection committee and the organizers. Except the first one, because one people at a time would come to the stage, and you see the magnetite fresco over there. So one people at a time would come to the stage and ask a question or explain something or a critic towards the festival.
예, 그래서 맨 왼쪽에 있는 사람을 제외하고 나머지가 14위원이고요. 그 맨 왼쪽에 있는 사람은 객석에서 한 명씩 올라와가지고 뭐 질문을 하거나 뭔가 설명하는 이제 그런 자리로.
And I mentioned Harun Farouki and the German students. I mentioned Jean-Jacques Lebel, and those people would come to the stage, as you will see.
예, 그리고 아까 프레드파르트나 장셰프들 같은 사람들도 이 무대에 올라오고 보게 되실 겁니다.
Jean-Jacques Lebel, I haven't told yet who he is. He's an artist, and he's one of the first persons who brought the happening, the practice of the happening to Europe. He has a close connection to American artists, so what Alan was doing in the US, and he brought that practice to Europe.
예, 전자고들에 대해서 지금 설명 안 드렸었는데 그 사람은 이제 그 처음으로 해프닝을 유럽으로 가져온 소개한 사람입니다. 그러니까 뉴욕에 있는 예술가들과 기밀 연결돼 있었고 그래서 해프닝을 처음으로 유럽에 소개했습니다.
And in the images you will see now, all these people unite in kind of an improvised, semi-improvised, semi-organized performance that surprised the organizers for sure. And that is filmed, you will see. So first here we have Holger Mainz, is going to talk Arnold Franke is going to talk in German, and then it will go on with Jean-Jacques Lebel and other participants to his surprise performance.
Dann müssen wir auf die Aufklärung und auf die gute Theorie und über die gute Einstellung zu Vietnam und all den Fragen die Praxis folgen lassen und die direkte Aktion. Und das will die Festivalleitung nicht mehr. Und in der Weise unterscheiden wir uns von ihr.
Et je désire que tout se place dans l'ordre, chacun aura la parole quand il le demandera. Qui appartient au public. C'est une manière de sélection. Ce qui est important de...
No need to translate the exact word you feel about. No, this is Jean-Jacques Lebel, who starts by complimenting the organizers for the festival and the way they connected cinema to other arts.
La notion même d'expérimental, ce qui me semble avoir été admirablement compris par les organisateurs, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, il n'y a pas d'économie du cinéma de l'ordre du cinéma. C'est un effort aujourd'hui. C'est cela même qui est expérimental. Maintenant,
then he comes on stage and he would start his piece by telling that now will take place the election of Miss Experimental.
참여하면 저기 무대에 올라와서는 미스 익스페리멘탈
chers consommateurs, chers téléspectateurs est arrivé, nous allons, avec l'aide du gouvernement, élire Miss Expérimentation 1900. La concurrente numéro 1, s'il vous plaît. Pouvez-vous la laisser passer? C'est bien gentil. Du calme. La concurrence numéro 2, s'il vous plaît. Laissez-la passer, s'il vous plaît. Merci. La concurrence numéro 3, merci. Pouvez-vous nous dire, s'il vous plaît, quel est le prénom de votre maman? Ah, grâce.
He's asking knowing them stupid questions like what's the name of your mom?
그래서 이제 멍청한 질문들 하는데 예를 들어 뭐 어머니 성함이 어떻게 되십니까? 뭐 이런 질문을 한다고.
By the way, those participants were supposed to be girls. The way he announces them, they were supposed to be girls, as you see them in class.
예, 그래서 사실은 여기 참여하는 그 콘테스트에 나온 사람들은 원래 이제 여성이라고 이제 말을 했는데 이제 나온 사람들 실제로 이제 남성이었습니다.
Except
one.
Cette concurrence est hors concours, n'est-ce pas?
he announces it out of competition. And he says that one is out of competition, of course.
그리고 사실 예외로 이제 여성이 등장했는데 있는데 이 사람은 그 경쟁에 속하지 않는다고 얘기했어요.
So the chaos continues by the German students coming on stage with what remained of the manifesto that was destroyed by the casino.
폴란드 퍼포먼스에 이제 나오는 그 한국 주인이 붙였던 소년문 포스터를 이제 독일 학생들이 무대에 올라오는 것으로 그렇죠.
This is organized showing leaflets to the audience.
그리고 이 사람은 그 리플렛은 이제 자기께 공지는 한번만
Merci. Réalité, 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 réalité.
That's so beautiful and hilarious at the same time, because young German students showing reality in the context of this film festival and people doing them.
되게 이제 되게 재밌는 이 장면은 이 독일 학생들은 현실이라고 계속 외치고 있고 이 실험 영화제 그 베네스 부대의 이상한 현실이라는 거를 외치고 있고 관객들은 거기에 이제 그 야유를 보고 있습니다.
In a recent book that was published on Abul Farouki a few years ago, Abul Farouki at the end of the book gave a list of it was kind of a timeline of what he thought was important for every year of his life, of his career. And the only event he would remember for 1967 was this.
최근에 출간된 하룬 파루키라는 책에서 마지막에 이제 하룬 파루키가 매년 이제 자기 기억에 남는 자기 매우 중요한 사건들을 이제 그 소개하는 부분에서 1967년에 딱 이 사건만 기록이 돼 있다고 합니다.
And the way he presented those events in just a few lines was in KNOKKE-LE-ZOUTE in December 1967. For once in my life, I was ahead of Jean-Luc Godard. For once in my life, I was ahead of Jean-Luc Godard by disrupting an experimental film festival.
Il ne faut pas taper sur la gueule des autres, hein. On a d'accord, on en fait. Non, c'est lui qui a commencé. Mon chef. Laissez-les passer, moi. Je crois que... Qu'est-ce qui se passe, c'est qui? Est-ce que vous pouvez te...
And more quickly to the chaos that would end the whole evening, which is this artwork that was created by two groups, a group of Dutch and British artists, and the piece was called Movie, and it would be like a huge balloon, a huge inflatable structure, on which some film loops were projected, and people could jump and bump on the structure. And at the same time, and again this shows all the connections between avant-garde group, the group Musica Elettronica Viva would play music. And part, as a part of the artists that were behind this balloon were Jeffrey Shaw. give an idea of the structure we look at.
예, 이게 아까 보셨던 그 풍선 작품의 구조를 보여주는 그림입니다.
I could go on for a long time, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but we haven't talked yet about the last edition of the festival in 1974. Between 67 and 74, underground cinema spread all over Europe, and many structures for distributing the cinema, that kind of cinema, had appeared also. For instance, I mentioned the name of Birgit and Wilhelm Heim, the German filmmakers in 1967. Quickly after that edition, they created, just a few months after experimental, they created a structure called X-Screen. And X-Screen would organize film screenings in Cologne. And other structures would appear all over Europe to distribute experimental cinema. And other people would set up screenings, and other festivals would start appearing even then, which wasn't the case before, like in London, for instance. Then when the last edition of KNOKKE-LE-ZOUTE appeared, it was a bit less expected than the editions before, because the network was already there. All the people are already put in touch. And also the excitement of the Cultural Revolution and of jumping naked and inflatable balloon vanished somehow. The films that were screened mainly in KNOKKE that year, 74, were structural cinema. Which actually on the film level was very exciting, because some critics have advocated that finally we could get to what it was all about. Rid of the being naked and that kind of stuff. But for many people, the press in general, the press was always extremely critical and negative about KNOKKE-LE-ZOUTE. The film press, the newspaper, they were extremely critical, like almost no positive feedback at all, which is really exciting to read, actually, from it. In general, always, and especially 74. That year, the festival still included a selection of stuff happening in the other arts, but also a showcase of video art, which is really interesting because it was clearly something that would close the end of the festival, just this new medium appearing, but Jacques Ledoux wanted to include some of it, like the question of how this would lead to. And so this picture is Jacques Ledoux on the right, last row, and people who were participating to the video selection, like Takei Kurumura, Rudi Steiner-Bazooka, Eden Schiller, and Nanjun Baek. So I will end on this beautiful picture by Nanjun Baek performing his piece TV Buddha in KNOKKE-LE-ZOUTE in 1974. So that was a short story of the KNOKKE-LE-ZOUTE Film Festival. That, as a conclusion, was important as a festival who contributed to the definition of what experimentation in cinema is or what. And which contributed also in the history of counterculture, and was so fascinating because of the screenings, because of the interest in the other arts, and because everything that was totally unexpected, but at the end included in the festival itself. And this openness of the festival to the unexpected, and this inclusion of everything that was happening, was I think something extremely important of the festival really shaped it. After Nanjun Baek, with this drawing by André McCall for the film, for the film piece Line Describing McCall, that premiered in 1974, and I think it was screened a few months ago here in MMCA. If you have questions, or if we have time for that.
And you said in '63 it was basically a ghost town, the casino was closed. So who was the audience for those films and concerts?
The audience would actually come specifically for the festival. Absolutely no locals were there, except a few usual customers, friends of Netherlands that you might have seen quickly in the documentation that were the animal shots, and it's really a weird confrontation. But Lorders did not come. No. So it's really fascinating to imagine all these avant-garde artists from all over the world travel to this ghost town in Belgium. And then I want to eat there, and change the shape of the avant-garde.
And my last question is, if you, I thought your conclusion would have been why the festival did not continue after 74. You know?
Yeah, like an important part of the answer is the video medium, which was included in the last edition, and meant that film would, experimental film would move to another medium. That's one thing. The way money was distributed in Belgium, the grants also changed, and it suddenly became a problem that mainly French organization would get money to organize something in a Dutch-speaking part of Belgium. I'm sorry, these are details that are really ridiculous, but part of everyday life in Belgium. So these are two reasons. Yeah. And then the death of Nellens, who was the director of the casino.
마지막 질문은 그 세 번째 질문은 그 작가들의 비인기표를 페스티벌에 해줄 수 있었냐는 질문은 답을 안 했던 거고요. 그다음에 네 번째 질문은 왜 24년에 페스티벌이 끝나고 더 이상 지속되지 않았냐는 질문인데 세 가지인데 첫 번째는 그 비디오 이제 그때부터 시작해서 실험의 영역이 필름에서 비디오로 넘어가는 그런 측면이고 두 번째는 이제 매개의 특수성인데 주로 이제 프랑스계의 조직이 그 네덜란드어를 주로 사용하는 쪽에 지방에서 그 기금을 지원받아서 이걸 운영하는 것이 좀 힘들었다는 측면이고 세 번째는 이 카지노 주인이 돌아가셔가지고 더 이상 지속이 안 됐던.
The history of the Experimental Film Festival also shows is the interest of the festival form in art history, in cultural history, for developing proposals. Because the main creation of all this is the festival itself, and that is what allowed all these connections to happen. The conclusion, actually, the festival is an art form itself.
여기서 이제 마지막으로 이제 그 결론적으로 하고 싶은 얘기는 사실은 이 페스티벌 자체도 사실 어떤 종류의 예술 형식이고 그걸 통해서 많은 사람들이 연결될 수 있었고 그래서 그 페스티벌 자체가 나중에 예술을 볼 수 있다는 그런 걸 결론을 냈습니다.
Thank you for the
예, 그러면 이걸로 마치겠습니다.